The life that we have is given to us in place of the law, which brought death. How did this happen? It is because Christ fulfilled the law for us. When we received his gift of fulfilling the law, we died to the law. New life has come. Everybody understand that? Christ came under the law. We are all going to be judged by a standard. We might not be under the law, but we are going to be judged by a standard. God's standard is the law. I am perfectly holy. My holiness is demonstrated in this law. If you can meet this, then you have met the requirements for coming into my presence. This is what the law is for. Okay, nobody can meet that standard. Even if it's not the law of Moses, it has to be the standard which is equal to the law of Moses. Okay, but he gave it to Israel to show us that we cannot meet the law of Moses. And he was very, very specific. And I quote this verse as much as I can so that you can remember it. Leviticus 18, verse 5. The man who does the things of the law will live by them. In other words, if you can perform this law, you will have life. It's that simple. And like I said, when I did that evaluation of that verse during the Leviticus series, people, all of these commentators were saying, well, you can have life abundantly. It means you can have life without pains. Or they came up with all these things. And that completely is not what Moses is speaking about, or the Lord through Moses is speaking about. Not at all. He is speaking about life. If you do the things of the law, you will live. To live means to not die. Right. That's what he's talking about. He's not talking about having abundant life. He's not talking about going to your grave in peace or anything like that. He is talking about having life. And the reason why we know that is because when the law was introduced to Adam and he didn't do the things of the law, he died. Okay? That is what that's speaking about. So, God gave Jesus the law, or he gave Israel the law. Israel failed in the law. We know this all the way through the Old Testament because every person in the Old Testament, without fail, every one of them died. There's one exception who was taken before he died, but that's for a different reason, okay? But all of the people under the law died. In fact, in the book of Acts, it says that, David prophesied about not seeing corruption. And he says, but there's his tomb. We're looking at it right now, guys. Obviously, David was not speaking about himself. And if he's not speaking about himself, this is Charlie Garrett's paraphrase, okay? I'm not quoting it. I'm just telling you what he said. Then it must be speaking of the Messiah to come, and that is Jesus whom we proclaim. So you have the law. If you don't do the things of the law, you die. If you do the things of the law, you live. That's God's standard. And so Christ was born in Israel. He wasn't born over in Japan. He was born where he gave his standard to the world, in Israel. That means that Christ was born under the law. The law is what condemns, or the law is what gives life. That's the only two options. They can't do anything else. That's the purpose of the law. So he was born capable of taking away sin because he was born without sin. His father is God. His mother is a human being. So he's fully qualified to do the things of the law as a human being, but he's doing it without sin because he did not inherit Adam's sin, because he had no human father, and sin travels from father to child. Okay, so this is what's going on with the law and our inability to live it out. Christ comes, he's capable of taking away our sins. Now he's born under the law, but that means he has to also be qualified to take away our sins. And that is what the Gospels are for, is to show that he was born under the law without sin, but he also lived under the law without sin. And at the end of his life, he said, nobody takes my life from me. Once again, Charlie Garrett paraphrase, I lay it down of myself, okay? And I have the power to take it up again. How can he do that? Because he has not sinned. And so he lives the law, he lives out the law, he is both capable and qualified, he dies in fulfillment of the law. The reason why it's fulfillment of the law is because when the law is fulfilled by somebody, there is no longer any purpose for the law. Does everybody see that? If one person can fulfill the law, there's no longer any purpose for the law. And that's why it says in Hebrews 7:18, 8:13, and 10:9 that he made the law obsolete, he annulled it, and he set it aside. This is what Christ came to do. The law, when he fulfilled the law through his righteousness, his not violating the law ended with him. And that's why Paul says in Colossians 2, verse 14, that the law was nailed. That's right, nailed to the cross. Christ was the one that was nailed to the cross, but because he fulfilled the law was nailed. And when Christ died, the law died. It no longer has any effect on any person that comes to him. Now, anybody that doesn't come to him, the law is still alive because it has that effect on all people. Okay? But for those who come to Christ, the law is dead. Anybody or any nation, the nation of Israel is separate than the people. Okay, there's national redemption in Israel and there's personal salvation. Those are two separate issues. I don't want to confuse that. But anybody that comes to Christ now moves from Adam to Christ, and the law is fulfilled. Christ was capable of taking away our sins. He was qualified to do so. He did do so. When we come to him, our sins are taken away. That's in a nutshell what the law was there for. He did that for us, and now we are no longer imputed sins. That's 2 Corinthians 5:19, because we are not under law any longer. It's annulled, set aside, nailed to the cross, and obsolete. Okay.